Okay, guys, it's time for part 2 of my WR2 Popori review. It's been high demand, and I've got to get this out before Tampa because I know once I come back from Tampa, all the rage is going to be also the Bach and the desktop system I'm demoing there. Make sure you come say hi to me there. But the Popori WR1 and WR3 are going to be there. You can hear it yourself. Tons of people have been coming out to hear it at my home. So this video is going to walk through at least more of my feedback and, more importantly, not just nebulous audiophile jargon. It's going to walk through why this thing sounds so good. So stay tuned. Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. I've been meaning to do this video, but just been so swamped previewing for you guys other brands that are going to be at Tampa Audio Fest. Florida Audio Expo is the official name of it. Looking forward to seeing you guys. But Popori is going to be one. I'm going to be in that room a lot, especially after hours, sharing with you playlists, fun things, giveaways, so don't forget about that. But what I wanted to do before you even go there is give you guys a little more about the technology behind this speaker and why this type of speaker, an open baffle line source, is, and how they do it uniquely compared to other similar electrostatics. And these things will maybe help you when you go to Florida Audio Expo or you come to my house ahead of time. You kind of already know a lot of the common questions that I've been asked and why it's different. Why is it somehow resonating with so many people? I mean, you've got the video, I think you've seen it. If you've watched my YouTube shorts, Joe Fenninger, the guy that makes all these do-it-yourself tube amps, just unparalleled expertise in the industry, longstanding audiophile. He called these the best speakers he's ever heard. Van's house brought tears to his eyes. One of my members went to Van's house and called it the best system he's ever heard. A gentleman from Dallas came down. Well, two gentlemen from Dallas. You saw John Harlow in the Joe Fenninger video, but another gentleman came down. I don't have this on video, but he said he'll do a video in the future. But he's auditioned the Ulcivox in Dallas when it was at Rhapsody. He auditioned the Aries Surratt in Austin, the same system I went to. He's auditioned Wilson XVs. He's auditioned Estalons, and this is what he likes the best. And he's actually looking at the sale model that's going to debut in March. Fighting me over that one because that's the one I'm looking to get as well. And just to give you a little background, I've been doing a lot of due diligence behind the scenes. Anything that I'm going to pivot to and own myself is going to be something, especially at that price tag, is something I'm going to do a lot of research into. And so I've been doing private Zooms with Popori and Mike Sweck, Unique Home Audio, the distributor. I wanted to get firsthand a comfort of what's going into that speaker, what makes it different. Ask all the questions because there is a big difference between this and other electrostatics. And then what I'm going to go into today is why do electrostatics in general sound so good? It's certainly in certain areas, but the trade-offs now are not there. That's where I want to kind of explain, because anybody can get up here and do audiophile nebulous jargon and not benchmark it to any measurements, not benchmark, that charade hopefully is going to end soon, because there is a correlation and more people are starting to realize that. Come to Tampa, I'll prove it to you in the desktop room, how measurements correlate to what you hear, both imaging, frequency response, transients, you name it. But in terms of just design type and how you design a speaker, that's what I wanted to talk to you today about, because this will tell you when you're hearing something, wait, why is it so detailed, clean, accurate, real? That realism is the word that Van used a lot. And I can explain why that is. It starts with electrostatics in general. One driver doing everything, no crossover parts are the best parts. No wire, no solder. But even more important than those parts being in the way, the drivers launching from multiple different points on a box, in a box, with diffraction issues depending on where they put it in the box. Some of the drivers are down low, some are down high, some have baffles that are all around the driver. You've got so many variables, and then the crossover points, and then the impedance curve. You've got so much you have to juggle that if you've ever watched any of these videos of how to design a box speaker, especially a three-way, oh my God, it is just incredible how many variables. And that's why you've seen constantly Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, Mark 4 of basically the same chassis speaker because they can change certain these variables and then it changed the whole presentation. But then you're never totally satisfied with that ilk of speaker. At least a lot of people aren't, because you still have different driver types. A tweeter like this, a mid-range like this, a woofer like this, all get shouting the music at you differently, from timing, frequency response anomalies, all kinds of things, room issues, reflection issues, comb filtering. There's just so many things that go into the difficulty of creating a great speaker. Now, what's interesting is that these type of speakers are not that different from what we used to experience with bookshelf speakers, where you have one driver doing everything. You get the same benefit if you create, I brought out a bookshelf speaker so you don't have to, this is actually a really good, like for under $100, a Polk Audio TS100 or TSI 100 or 1100. You can hook a little speaker like this up, and because the tweeter is handling so much of the range and the bass driver is not doing too much, it can only go so low, it's amazing what appreciation you can get for $100 speaker. And if you watch my video with the $1 million acapella Spheron system, you'll hear that the owner sometimes brought out, not a Polk one, but he brought out a little speaker like this and A/B'd it for people at the audio show, at the Audiophile Society in his area. And he said some people like that small speaker better than his $1 million acapella Spheron on certain metrics. Now, obviously, if you don't need the dynamics, the realism, the scale, yes, that's something. But a lot of people will find a small speaker like this for like female vocals and easy tracks to play and at low volumes. This will be addictive to a lot of people. And all you really need, if that's all you listen to. Inevitably, though, this doesn't satisfy people for long. They'll get addicted to it for a little while, but then there's some song you want to crank up. There's something you want to really feel the bass. You want to play at 100 dB. A friend comes over, wants to play, Zeppelin or whatever it is. Then you're going to find the flaws of the trade-off here. And same thing happened with electrostatics. Quads, still to this day, legendary quads, they inspired Andrew Jones to get into speaker building, if you watched that video he gave. And still to this day, people want quads, the legacy quads, because the mid-range purity is so good when you have electrostatics doing it. What other speakers from that era do people still want that are box speakers? Zero. There isn't one box speaker out there that people want from that era, but they want the electrostatics because this provides one driver doing everything. The trade-off has always been, though, similar to a bookshelf speaker, is that when you got to the low bass area, it just didn't have the dynamics. The excursion wasn't there. It would slap against the, and that was its form of distortion. With box speakers, you're going to have the same problem with a lot of excursion, but it's more nebulous distortion that our ears aren't as sensitive to. So you're hearing a lot of distortion with most box speakers and bass, but it's not that slap and stop that's a little much more annoying with electrostatics. So what they did with the Poporis was brilliant. They learned from they did many years of repairing other people's electrostatics. That's how they got started. The Sound Labs, the Martin Logans, Final, whatever it was, they could repair it all. And they started to learn what were the trade-offs, what was the physics, the science behind it, and what could they do better. And I'm not going to get into all their trade secrets, and in fact, some of them they haven't revealed to me. But what I can share with you is that it's a very complex formula, mathematical formula of size, excursion, and then what type of extension you want to get. And one of the things that they did brilliantly is that they measured the precise excursion that they want to get from each model, what it would cost them in terms of what do they force the roll off at the bottom to make sure it doesn't go much worse than that. I talked about that in part 1. That's one of the brilliant things. They have basically a quasi rumble filter, although it's not electronic in the circuit path, but they've basically done the same thing that a rumble filter does in preventing this from wasting power in your amp, wasting excursion on stuff that it's not comfortable doing. And everything above that is now so much cleaner, more precise, less distortion. And really, you find out, as you heard with Joe, I have flat bass to 20 hertz. He thought it was too much bass. He liked these without the subs. So even getting to 20 hertz, some people don't like that. So even flat, they don't like it. So this is plenty enough bass for most people, roughly 30 hertz or so, depending on your room, maybe 35 hertz on this model of speaker. The other ones can go more. But what they've done really brilliantly is dedicate part of the panel, and they can even tell you how many slots is the tweeter, mid-range, and how much is for the bass. But what they've done is when you make the excursion bigger for more bass, then the panels will naturally roll off a little bit at the top end, a little bit more. And so what they've done is added a tweeter to fill in the gap when they have more excursion for bass. The tweeter will kick in, and this is just high pass. The panel will still run full range. So it's not in the signal path per se of anything affecting this, but this is high passed around 6,000 hertz to give that little more boost where these panels will naturally drop off. And it's a brilliant way to do, you know, no crossover or just a little bit of a high pass in an area that a lot of people don't even hear. And a lot of people may choose not to even connect the high pass tweeter because they like a natural roll off anyway. Some speakers are even designed, but they can show you measurements with and without, and you can listen for yourself. You got that variability. They also have these pads that, depending on how close to the back wall, you can tune as well and make the speaker fit sonic profile. So another level of stuff. I don't want to get into all of that as well. These are going to be things I'll cover with them in a Zoom. But this is a much more sophisticated speaker than you see. And what they kind of done is done a hybrid, but instead of doing that bass module on the bottom, which is always, in my opinion, problematic, whether it's a planar, electrostatic, you put a bass module at the bottom, they're usually crossing over. The best I've seen is the Sanders. That's one of the best ones. And that's still at 170 hertz. You know, some of them will cross over as high as 200 hertz or more, and that immediately rules it out for me owning it. So this is a different way of doing it. Make sure the panel can do bass and do bass floor to ceiling. You don't get that imaging down to the floor, but then just kick in at 6,000 hertz because you have extra excursion of this panel. You can kick it in and do get that full range extension. Now, what they also do brilliantly with their other models is not just like Martin Logan. Like I got fooled by Martin Logan. The dealer told me, "Oh, you like the Prodigy? You can just get the cheap, and it's not in your budget right now. Get the Scenario of the Arius. It's exact trickle down." That's the wrong way to do it. What I learned from them is every time you change the physics of this panel and the cross section and the width and the length, then you have to recalculate everything. And so on the WR3, they are able to run the panel actually full range, but they reduce the excursion a bit such that it doesn't go quite as low as these, but then the panel can give you full range extension to 20 hertz without the necessary tweeter high pass. So you can choose, especially if you're running subs, the WR3 might be, for a small room, might be the one you want to go with. All of them are going to get you in that 100 dB dynamics. And that's impressive because certain box speakers, I know tons of box speakers, virtually every bookshelf you can find, you know, at budget is not going to do 100 dB. There are exceptions, of course, but they're not going to do it this quality either. That's the other trade-off. When you build these speakers that have huge X-Max and excursion and dynamics, you know, like Eclipse or something, you put them on, listen to them, they sound a mess, and then you measure them, they sound a mess. But they do kick butt. There's always a trade-off. This speaker sounds so good because I'm explaining to you, not with nebulous audiophile jargon, I'm explaining to you with science why you're hearing what you're going to hear if you get to hear them firsthand. The purity, the detail, the definition, all the things Joe mentioned are there. The realism, the sound stage, it's not shouted at you. It just sounds more real. And it's because less is in the signal path and one driver is doing everything. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more understanding of the technology, especially in the WR2, but also their other models. I'll go into more detail. The WR1s in Tampa, I'll be giving a presentation there. Mike Sweck can also do that. And then the sale model, that's going to be pretty pricey. It's got even more technology, but at a huge price tag, probably in that 80 to 90,000 mark. But let me tell you something. Don't look at 80, 90,000 and think that that should be benchmarked against box speakers at 80, 90,000. No, benchmark the sale model against 100, 200 million. It doesn't matter, because with an electrostatic, you're getting so much more value. All of these box speakers have to spend almost all of your money you're spending is on the cabinet, just to make the cabinet state of the art. Look at what has to happen to do the CNC machines, the investment you have to make just to create a perfect cabinet or near perfect cabinet. And you still have multiple drivers and crossover parts you have to put in the path. There's some that do that exceptionally well, and definitely I recommend those. But you can get away with a budget much less, and you can go ahead and A/B it for yourself. Go to Tampa Show, hear it, come to my house, hear it, talk, join my membership group. There's already several people that own it. You can get testimonials, whether you believe me, don't believe me. You'll see the measurements. We'll share them with you. With the Bach in Tampa, there's really no excuses now. You can be the reviewer. There's no excuses in this hobby anymore. There's a lot of accessibility. Just shoot me an email. I'll help you out, and I'll see you in Tampa.